All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining our session today entitled Brand Registry. You're enrolled, now what? If you're wondering what are the powerful set of tools available to you within this program now that you've enrolled in Brand Registry and you want to learn more strategies about how to build and protect your brand on Amazon, well, you're in the right place. But first, some introductions. My name is Clay Ryan. I am the head of global business development for brand protection and a product called Transparency. Transparency is basically a product that ensures accurate and authentic products reach your customers every time, and it relies on a unit level serialization process. And we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail later in the presentation. But for now, let me turn it over to my colleague to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Egon Petrozzini. I am a senior manager in the brand protection team. In this role, I'm responsible for identifying and building solutions that allow you to enroll in Brand Registry, manage your brand metadata on Brand Registry, assign protection and selling roles, which we will talk about a little bit later in this presentation, as well as building engaging experiences on our Brand Registry portal. Here is a quick agenda of what we'll actually discuss today. So first, you'll get a quick overview of what is available to you once you've enrolled in Brand Registry. Then we'll jump into some nitty-gritty details on some of the features and solutions that are available to you.
All right, after that, we're going to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to get a little bit deeper into a couple specific programs that Brand Registry is a prerequisite for. And we'll talk about some of the brand building programs that require Brand Registry enrollment. Two of those programs that we're going to dive into in detail are Project Zero and Transparency, and we'll discuss how these can be powerful tools to help protect and build your brand on Amazon.
But before we start, let's take a moment and pause and just congratulate each and every one of you. Joining a Brand Registry is the critical first step to protecting your brand in our stores. I know, since my team owns the enrollment experience, we ask for a lot of information during the enrollment process, but we use this information to protect your brand. And it's critical that we use this information on a daily basis to ensure that your brand is protected in our stores. By the end of this presentation, we hope that you're as excited as we are about all the protections and features that are available to you now that you've enrolled in Brand Registry.
Absolutely. So as Egon alluded to, Brand Registry is really the entry point for a lot of these features that we're going to talk about. And when you join Brand Registry, basically what you're telling us is you're raising your hand and saying, I'm here, this is my intellectual property. So once you enroll, the first two benefits, as you may know, that you get immediate access to within Brand Registry are our automated protections, which are happening behind the scenes, and we'll talk a little bit more about what those do for you, as well as the report a violation tool, which we will also talk about in more detail. And then second, by registering your brand in Brand Registry, you also become eligible for some of our brand building benefits. Some of these, as examples that you may have heard of, include stores, manager experiments, sponsor brands, and much more. And then lastly, as a Brand Registry enrolled brand, you may also be eligible for some more advanced programs that are within the brand protection suite of products, including Project Zero and Transparency.
In short, Brand Registry opens up so many opportunities for you.
All right, so let's get started. So I know, Egon, there are differences in what you can do in Brand Registry based on your trademark status. Can you explain some of the differences in these two statuses?
Sure. So as many of you know, enrolling in Brand Registry requires you to have either a pending trademark or a registered trademark. So what are the differences? With a pending trademark, you get automated brand protection and report a violation. With the report a violation tool, you can use this to submit patent and copyright infringements.
Okay, that makes sense. So you can't report a trademark infringement unless you have the trademark, but what are you able to do with that next level with a registered trademark?
Great question. So once you've actually received confirmation from your trade office that your trademark is registered, or let's say you already had a registered trademark when you enrolled, you now get the same level of benefits as a pending trademark, but you can also use report a violation to submit notices for trademark infringement. And also, at this point, you'll meet the criteria eligibility for both Transparency and Project Zero.
Excellent, makes sense so far. Now, once you get that email verification saying congratulations, you're now enrolled in Brand Registry, you might be wondering, okay, what's the first step? What do I do? What do I do next? Egon, maybe you could talk a little bit about what's immediately available and what those kind of first next steps are.
Sure. So what we in Brand Registry say is that protection starts on day one. But what does that actually mean? So what we mean is that starting day one that you've enrolled in Brand Registry, we're able to automate brand protections to identify and prevent bad actors from targeting your brand. This applies to both pending and registered trademarks. You may ask yourself, how do you do this? It's a very complex domain. Well, we use the latest technologies in ML to identify these infringements. So we use computer vision, risk assessments, large language models, and we combine all that into our automatic brand protection services to identify and proactively take action on infringing listings before a customer ever sees them. We've been able to accurately identify complex IP or infringing on logos, shapes, patterns, even if those items, those shapes or logos are obfuscated and are not clearly visible on our catalog.
Yeah, and just to underscore some of what Egon's saying here, these automated brand protections are so effective that essentially 99% of suspected infringements are stopped before brands even have to report them, maybe even before they see them or notice them. So to underscore this with one more data point, actually, in our latest brand protection report, we reported that there was a 30% reduction in valid notices of infringements that we've seen since 2020. Now, this is huge, because keep in mind, over that last 4+ years since that time, the number of items available in our stores has actually increased significantly. Yet at the same time, we've seen valid notices of infringement actually go down. So that shows really the effectiveness of what you're talking about with the power of these automated protections, which are really constantly improving and kind of running in the background without brands even having to lift a finger. But let's talk a little bit about that 1% of cases where our automated protections don't necessarily catch an IP infringement, because that can still happen, right?
Of course. You may have a new trademark, you may have a new product line, you may have something that we don't know about. So this is where it becomes critical that it is a partnership between the brands and Amazon. So you giving us this information is critical to enable these automatic brand protections in the future. So you can use this by leveraging the report a violation tool. So for those cases of the 1% that we're unable to identify, go to RAV and you can easily search by images or text and submit a notice by just a few clicks.
Great, and I know that you access the report a violation tool by logging into Brand Registry and clicking that protect button, so it's very intuitive. But I also have heard that the Brand Registry homepage experience has been redesigned. Maybe could you take a moment to walk us through some of the elements of that redesign and what new information and tools are available within that?
Sure. So we listened to our brands, and one of their feedback was they wanted more data, more information on our homepage. So what we did is we actually customized our homepage based on the protection role that you have. Well, we'll talk about protection roles here in a little bit, but basically on the new homepage, we now have a way for you to see to quickly review account data, get up-to-date information on the latest changes that are happening, and easily navigate to other features that are available to you in Brand Registry. One of those features is Impact Dashboard, and you can find this by clicking on Monitor in the top menu. Impact Dashboard helps provide insights into the actions that Amazon is taking on your behalf to protect your brand in our stores. It shows a snapshot of basically the proactive actions that we've taken. This includes the numbers of brands registered and protected, the volume of infringing ASINs that we've actioned, the volume of invalid ASINs that we prevented, and also you can use this data to then filter and look at trends, look at analysis, and really see where the problems are that you can then take action off Amazon to better protect your brand globally.
Great, thanks, Egon. Yeah, all of this helps underscore for me how our automated protections are really working together with the direct action that we make available for brands to take on their own to report and combat IP violations. Beyond just sort of how those things work in conjunction, I'm also impressed at just how much information is here and available to brands. And I'm wondering, because I'm guessing that we're constantly adding and enhancing these pages even more. How do you recommend brands best stay apprised as new information and features come out on these pages?
Yes, as Clay mentioned, we're constantly innovating. We're always trying to find ways to improve your life. And we listen to the feedback you have, plus data that we get internally. So one of the features that we actually launched was called Spotlight. Spotlight is a tool that allows you to see new features, get news announcements, product eligibility, such as when you become eligible for Project Zero, and actions that you can take to better protect your brand. You can find Spotlight in the top right corner of the homepage.
Okay, so I know the brand registry homepage experience can actually differ based on the user's role, and you mentioned we'd get into this, so I think now's the time. Can you explain the different brand protection roles?
Sure. So before I explain them, let me just give a quick summary of what protection roles are. So protection roles are basically a group of permissions that are assigned at the brand registry account to enable and manage your protection benefits. So upon enrollment into brand registry, you're automatically granted the administrator and the rights owner role. You can then, as the administrator, invite additional users to be part of brand registry. An administrator is the only user authorized to manage the protection roles for your brand. This is as mentioned, is auto-assigned at the time of enrollment. However, the administrator can then assign any of the following roles, including the administrator, to other users. The rights owner is a trademark owner or the employee of the trademark owner. This user is allowed to leverage the report a violation tool that we spoke about a little bit earlier to submit notices of infringement. And then the final role is the registered agent, who is a third party authorized by the trademark owner or the brand to report violations on behalf of the brand.
Great. Thanks, Egon, for that explanation of the various roles. Do you have any advice for brands on how best to use these different roles?
Sure, I'll give you two pieces of advice. First one is carefully consider who you're going to assign as an administrator. The administrator is a very powerful role, as I mentioned. It can add, remove any of the protection roles that are currently assigned. The second is have at least two administrators on your brand. A employee leaving the company, a lost password, a trademark ownership change can lead to your brand being locked out of brand registry.
Great. Very helpful, Egon. Thanks for explaining the brand protection tools in brand registry. I guess moving beyond this element of protection into more the brand building subject matter, I think there's some brand building tools that probably some of our viewers today are curious about, especially the well-known ones like A+ content. Are these available as well through brand registry?
Great question. We get this all the time. It's questions from our brands is, where's my A+ content? So let me actually explain this. So at the time of enrollment, so enrollment in brand registry is a prerequisite to many of these benefits. These benefits are enabled by you being in brand registry and having a selling role assigned to it. So these programs include things like A+ content, manage your experiment, brand analytics, and many, many more. These tools and these benefits empower you to create visually enhancing pages that really captivate your audience and captivate your customers. Conduct A/B testing to understand which feature, which product title is going to work best for the customers. And then also deepen that engagement and connection that you have with the customers.
Excellent. Yeah, I know a lot of these programs are just powerful tools and they work very complementary in conjunction with each other. So I'm guessing, some of our people attending today are eager to enroll in these programs. Can you give any advice on what they need to do next as a next step?
Of course. So we spoke about protection roles. Now let's switch to selling roles. So selling roles are similar to protection roles. They're a group of permissions. So the key difference is that these selling roles are features that are linked to your Amazon selling account. So once you've enrolled in brand registry, you're automatically granted the brand representative role. The brand representative role is someone that's internal to the company and has all the benefits available to them to that selling account. The administrator, the brand administrator that we spoke about earlier, can then add in more users to this account. And the two users that they can add is additional brand representative. You may have multiple employees of your company, of your brand, that need to have these benefits. So you could assign an additional brand representative. Or if you use a distributor or a licensee, you can assign the reseller role. The reseller role is a user outside of your company, that they are allowed by the company to sell those products in Amazon stores.
All right, makes sense. Now, how do you assign these selling roles to make sure that all the right parties, as you've talked through, have the correct role assigned to them?
Good question. So selling roles are all managed on Brand Registry. So what you do is you go to the Brand Registry portal. You will click on Manage Selling Account from the Manage tab. From there, you will then click on Connect a Selling Account to begin. You'll pick a few items, so such as choosing what type of role you want to give them. Is it the brand representative? Is it the reseller? And then you'll provide the merchant token or select an already connected account. Once you've done this, you'll click Connect Selling Account, and this will trigger an email that is sent to the user. Once the user validates this email or receives this email and they accept it, they will be shown in the connected, they will be shown active in the connected tab. Please note that this functionality, as of today, is only available for 3P sellers. We are looking to make this available to 1P sellers in the near future.
Awesome. This has all been super helpful. Thanks, Egon. As promised, we're actually going to shift gears now and talk a little bit about a couple specific programs that are powerful in building and protecting your brand. And I mentioned we'd take a deeper dive into two of those programs, Project Zero and Transparency. So we're going to do that now. Let's start actually with talking a little bit about Project Zero. So Project Zero is an exclusive program that brands are invited to join, and this essentially, that invitation comes after a brand has demonstrated successful use of using Brand Registry's Report a Violation tool. With Project Zero, you can basically remove counterfeits immediately. So you use the self-service tool to search and remove infringing listings from the Amazon store instantly. So unlike the Report a Violation tool where you're reporting it to Amazon and you wait for us to take action, the Project Zero self-service removal tool allows you to take that action immediately, and you get notified when those listings are taken down. The second benefit of Project Zero is actually nothing that you have to do. It just kind of happens behind the scenes, and that's that each time you use that self-service removal tool, you enhance our automated protections. Each counterfeit removal basically strengthens Brand Registry's automated protections so we can improve even more on blocking counterfeits proactively. And then third, you can prevent counterfeits proactively another way, which is by combining this removal with transparency serialization. And that uses unique scannable codes to prevent counterfeits from being listed or sold in the first place.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Clay, but I think you might be an expert in transparency. So can you elaborate, like, what is transparency?
Yes, happy to get to this point. I've been waiting for this moment. So transparency, as I mentioned, is a product traceability and authenticity program that relies on unit-level serialization. And this prevents defects, including counterfeits or materially different products, from reaching customers. Now that was probably a mouthful, so let me break that down a little bit. So brands essentially apply a unique serial number to each unit that they produce, or they share existing serial numbers that they may already have with Amazon. And then Amazon verifies these codes during the listing and fulfillment process, basically blocking any invalid units from going out to customers.
So how do brands get these codes, and what do they actually look like?
Yeah, so visually you can see a little mock-up here on the screen of what the codes look like. Of course, there's different formatting options, but codes are essentially, to answer your first question, issued by Amazon, and they're only issued to brand owners. The code is essentially a 2D data matrix code, so very similar to a QR code in appearance in many respects, and that can be affixed to the product in a few different ways. Number one, it can be printed on labels, and those can be done either through in-house printing, or we can refer you to third-party service providers that offer this service that many of our brands work with. The second method that you can affix these codes to your product is through designing it into the packaging itself. And so on the product packaging, rather than having a separate label, the code gets designed right into the package. The third method is replacing those codes with existing serial numbers that are qualifying that you may already be using today.
So that's great, but what are the benefits of these codes? Like, what do brands and what do customers actually get?
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what they effectively do. So essentially, these codes prevent counterfeits and inaccurate products from reaching customers. And so when I say inaccurate products, again, an order defect, a lot of people think of counterfeits, and when we talk about brand protection, we talk a lot about counterfeits. That's obviously a very negative customer experience that we want to block. But you may also have just different versions of your product, whether they're different international versions or different variations of a product type. Well, transparency can prevent those types of defects too, so that a customer does not get the wrong version of your product. So it basically ensures that customers receive the correct product every time, and then allows customers to verify authenticity themselves by basically scanning these codes themselves through either the Transparency app or the Amazon mobile shopping app. So that's a good segue actually into talking about what happens when customers scan these codes. So again, customers can scan to see authenticity of the product, but also it opens up a new avenue for you as a brand to engage with customers in new ways. So that post-purchase engagement when customers scan codes may look like promotions, videos, social sharing mechanisms, or other things that you want to make available as a new form of engagement with your customers. And again, those codes can be scanned either there's a specific Transparency app or just the general Amazon mobile shopping app. So really, that's the second element that's a benefit of transparency, is this customer engagement piece. There's actually a third element I want to talk about as well, which is a little bit less customer facing, but more behind the scenes that benefits you as a brand. And that's these transparency codes provide brands with insights at the batch or lot level to diagnose and address supply chain issues. So you may want to see some returns analytics and see these types of things at a batch or lot level, and transparency can help you address some of those issues.
So you started talking about being global. How many brands are using this today?
Yeah, so as of last year, we actually had over 47,000 brands protected with transparency, and that represents over 1.6 billion product units, and that's just the units on Amazon, not including units that are sold off Amazon as well. Transparency is also today available in 10 different countries. So if you sell your products in the US and Germany, for example, your products receive the same level of protection in both regions automatically.
It's great that this is such a global program, but I'm still missing kind of that nitty-gritty detail. How does it actually work? How does transparency work?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about some of the mechanics. So the first step in transparency is obviously you need to choose which products you want to enroll. You do not have to enroll every product in your catalog, but for the products you do enroll in transparency, you have to be able to serialize every unit produced of that product. The second step is essentially applying these codes. And let me just recap again kind of the three different methods. They can be applied to the product either via labels. There's several different formatting types of those labels, and you can either print them in-house or have a third-party service provider do that. Or they can be applied to the product via being designed into the packaging itself, or brands can share serial codes that they may already be producing on their own with us. Then third, we scan the codes, and if they don't scan as valid, the product doesn't ship. Now that describes, in fairness, more of the fulfilled by Amazon experience. So obviously if a product is going through our own fulfillment network, we have the capability to proactively scan those codes. We do all the work for you. If a product does not scan as a valid code, it's not going to get to a customer in the first place. So very proactive. Now, if a product is fulfilled directly by a merchant, it's a little bit different experience because we don't have the capability of scanning that before it gets shipped. However, in terms of our merchant fulfilled protections, we basically require third-party merchants who are fulfilling their own orders to supply that code at the time that they ship the order out. And in fact, even further upstream from that, we require third-party sellers to supply valid codes before they can even list an offer on a transparency protected ASIN. And then as I mentioned, post-purchase, customers can also scan the codes once they receive the item, and they can authenticate the item and access additional information you may wish to display. So again, another powerful means for brands to engage with their customers in new ways post-purchase. And again, just to underscore some of the benefits that might be used for, you can cross-sell other products in your catalog, you can offer promotions or deals, you can promote social sharing in various ways. So another great aspect of the program.
So great, and now I actually understand how transparency works, but how do I enroll? What's needed to enroll in transparency?
Yeah, so as you may have guessed from the context of this presentation, enrollment in Brand Registry is a prerequisite. So that's the number one baseline requirement. You have to be enrolled in Brand Registry with a fully registered trademark. The second requirement is your products that you wish to enroll in the program, they do need to have a global trade identification number, or a GTIN. Sometimes that's more commonly known as a UPC or an EAN, depending on the region. And then the third requirement is that you have to have the ability to apply unique serial codes on every unit you manufacture. And that's regardless of where they're sold, so including units that may be going to other places outside of Amazon, which is another benefit if customers are scanning these products. They're going to be able to scan the codes, get that additional post-purchase engagement features, whether they buy the product on Amazon or on another website or in a brick and mortar retail location. Anywhere they buy the product.
Okay, I promise. Last question. I heard that brands that already serialize their products can use their existing codes for transparency?
Yeah, that's correct. You may have heard me allude to this a few times already. We're pretty excited about it. So brands can now connect their existing qualifying serial codes to enable transparency protections. And this is a new feature that has just been introduced actually within the last year. It's a significant benefit to brands who are already serializing today for a few reasons. Number one, it basically enables transparency protections to happen quickly. You can essentially get your products protected within as little as a few weeks. Number two, it obviously reduces cost and effort. You don't need to introduce a new labeling or packaging process within your manufacturing process. And then third, it also optimizes space on your packaging. And part of the genesis of this feature was feedback we received from brands about their packaging space is really kind of precious real estate, and they have very much a focus on the design quality, and they've intentionally designed that package. And so rather than having to introduce something new into that space, we can use the serial codes that they're already producing today without them having to make any design changes. So needless to say, many brands have successfully scaled up quickly and actually benefited from these proactive protections using their existing codes.
This is some exciting development for brands, and I'm sure brands are very excited about this feature to use their existing serialization for transparency. So I know we covered a lot of information here today, so we want to leave you with just a few key takeaways.
Yeah, so Egon, why don't I let you start? What are the biggest things that you want the audience to take away today?
So the biggest thing I want to take away is making sure that people use report a violation correctly. The more you use report a violation, the better our protection becomes. So submitting accurate information can ensure that we learn and then can take proactive actions in the future. My second takeaway, which is a little bit of a repeat from my roles takeaway, my protection roles takeaway, is really be cautious on who you assign roles. Roles matter, so make sure you audit and validate that you have the right users for the right roles and make sure they're correctly assigned.
Great. Well, for me, I'd love the audience to take away that unit-level serialization is a powerful tool, and so transparency can really help you proactively protect your brand. And I do want to underscore that word proactive, too. A lot of times, I think we think of brand protection as a reactive process. We're constantly trying to react to maybe ways that bad actors are trying to infringe on our intellectual property. Transparency is really a powerful program that can prevent those things from occurring before you even have to react to them. So I'd consider brands, wise to look into enrolling maybe some of their top-selling ASINs right away if you have a registered trademark and you're in brand registry. Last thing I would say is, unit-level serialization unlocks a whole host of future opportunities as new features are developed as well. So as a spoiler alert, we're not done developing this program, and we're constantly iterating and improving, as you mentioned with brand registry tools earlier as well. And so as new features get developed, you'll benefit from those as well by being in the program. So for more information, I would encourage people to visit our booth at the Partner Connect Expo if you're here at Accelerate in person. If you're attending virtually today, please feel free to send us a message through the virtual booth. Or in any case, please take the opportunity to visit transparency.com, and there you can learn more about the program and find ways to contact us. Lastly, we would love to hear your thoughts about today's session, so please give us your feedback. To leave that feedback, go ahead and use your in-app scanner to scan this QR code that you can see on screen to access the session survey, and we'd love to get your feedback. So thanks again.
Thank you, everyone.